Welcome to Issues at Hand, WBS TV. Peter Kiwazo, your host. And I'm hoping it's a nice start to the week. The weather is still very, very, very kind to us. An interesting show. An unusual number for Issues at Hand on the set tonight. And yes, we are talking the issue at hand. We are talking Kavera. The ban or no ban? Last week, NEMA moved and said they were going to implement the order that has been coming and not coming for a number of years. Then the same time that NEMA moved to implement, the Prime Minister wrote a letter that wasn't even addressed to whom it may concern. It wasn't addressed to anyone. And it was supposed to pause, and it never paused anything. I know that the next day after his writing, Cabinet sat, and my ear to the ground, my fly on the wall assures me that Cabinet said NEMA was right to implement. And I know the guys at NEMA must be popping their champagne. And I have a full table here. I have manufacturers, I have businessmen, I have NEMA. I'll start with Isaac Ntuju, whichever I choose to use. Isaac is from NEMA. Welcome, Isaac.
Thank you, Mr. Chivazo, and good evening, viewers.
You're a chemist at NEMA.
I'm the Senior Environment Inspector at NEMA, and my primary training is chemistry, so I'm a chemist.
Senior Environment Inspector. Okay, we'll fight with you along the way, depending on what comes. I have Naim Sabra. Naim Sabra is a manufacturer.
That's correct.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And I have Mr. Evaristo Kayondo, Chairman Kasita.
Yeah, thank you for hosting us.
And I have Christina Kello. She's an advocate, and she works with NEMA.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. And right next to me is Haji Mwanga Badru of Luka Plastics. Right?
Yes.
Gentlemen and lady,
Thank you very much.
you're all most welcome to WBS. Very, very briefly, I'll ask first, Christian. Very briefly, give us the background of what we're dealing with and where we are at the moment.
Well, briefly, we have a law. It's the Finance Act of 2009, which banned plastic carrier bags and required that the minister makes exemptions by regulation. Then in 2010, regulations were actually made to exempt use of plastics for exceptional purposes, including for industrial purposes, agricultural purposes, medical purposes, and construction, among others. Now, after that, there was, of course, a lot of discussion between the regulators, NEMA, and other government institutions, and the manufacturers, and also the traders. And for a while, the ban was not implemented to the extent that it was required to be implemented. Then recently, we had an issue again emanating from discussions in Parliament and also in Cabinet, whereby the implementation was required to proceed. Now, in Cabinet, you did make reference to that, Mr. Chairman. There was a discussion about this particular issue. I think the issue was floated by the minister in charge of trade and industry, and it was discussed by Cabinet. Following that discussion, the Prime Minister did make a statement recognizing that the ban is there in law, and also saying that consultations should continue among the regulators, industry, and also the traders about charting the way forward in respect to the management of implementation of the ban for...
So the ban
yes.
is in existence?
The ban is in existence. It
And
is
it
the
is
issue of
rolling on.
consultations that is still going on.
Mr. Evaristo,
Yes, sir.
I come to you as the Chairman Kasita. This has been since 2008?
2009,
The Finance Bill of 2009.
Finance Act.
Yes. It was stayed then in consultation with traders, with manufacturers, as they were asked to make amends.
Yes.
Several years later,
Yeah, in fact,
several years later, we are rolling, and your collegiate is up in arms. Are you being fair to this country?
I think we are very fair to this country. And what happened in 2009, we had several meetings. And during these meetings, what I remember, there were a number of issues which were put forward. One of the issues which was around was that once we use the Kavera, the way we dispose it off is not recycled, and a number of conditions were put to the manufacturers that whatever you are producing, you are obliged to put up a machine which would recycle what you have emitted to the environment. And this is exactly what has been taking place since then, because by 2009, there was no recycling plant in the country. And the manufacturers were put to task to put up recycling plants. They were also asked to educate the masses about the littering and the disposal of the Kavera. They were given a number of tasks. And I think up to now, what has happened, around 15 recycling plants are in the country after then. And maybe with the education, it might not have been as thorough as was expected, but at least the recycling plants are around, and I think the manufacturers have done something.
I'll come back to those issues, but Haji Mwanga,
Yes.
from the deepest part of the bottom of your heart, do you think we are actually dealing with the problem of Kavera in this country? Do you think that we are getting on top of the problem? Or do you even think we have a problem with Kavera?
Yes, I agree. We have a problem with Kavera. As manufacturers, I want to make it clear that we are careful to the environment, because we are all Ugandans, and we know Uganda is an agriculture country. We have all lived on food grown in the gardens. Before the coming of Kavera, there were paper bags. But as technology changes, it's now Kavera all over the world. There's no way Uganda in particular will be isolated from other countries to start saying Uganda will not use Kavera in terms of carrier bags. Because the carrier bag in its own, it is a value addition in terms of convenience. If someone went to a shop to buy, it's very easy to come out with the goods bought to the car or to the house. What we are seeing as a problem in Kavera is not Kavera. It is us, the people who are handling this product. Our appeal to the government, ever since we started this campaign, has always been sensitization and making a law and policy to all the Ugandans, whether in urban centers or in the villages, that let there be systems of dealing with Kavera right from our household. I have traveled once in America, and I saw what happens there. I know we're still very far to reach that level, but looking at the way development is coming in Uganda, we are not very far from that now. In the US, plastic from the household, there are 3 containers or dust bins. Blue will be for plastic, green will be for grass, and black is for food stuff.
May I interject? May I interject? Where it has happened in Uganda, and this is interesting for all of us here, if you do separate garbage at your house, this is what happens, and I do. You put the biodegradables alone. You put plastics, Kaveras alone. You put glass bottles alone.
And wood.
The guys that pick my garbage come and heap all of it in the same place.
I was
after I've separated them and said this one alone, this one alone, when they pick it up, they throw it all into the same truck and on the same, and they don't care.
I was coming to conclude on that one. What happens, our authority, KCCA, or other urban centers, will allocate companies particular product to be picked on a particular date. If you are in your home, if a vehicle is coming on Monday, you are expected to take out your bins in their colors. Each company for that particular product will come and only pick that one. And it will go with only plastic. And it will go to a gazetted place to deal with plastic. Another vehicle or another company are given the task of collecting food stuff, will come and only pick that one. Another one will come and take only the green, the green whatever. That way, the contamination of this product will be minimized right from the household.
So, Haji,
and
the
that
problem
way,
is
for that,
garbage management.
Garbage management is
Thank
our
you.
problem. And
Thank
that's
you.
why we are saying that these plastic carrier bags is a problem. But
Naim.
it is not a problem.
Naim,
Yes, sir.
you gentlemen, since 2009, have been making commitments. Number one, to recycle. Number two, to move away from the minute polythene that is not recyclable. You have continued to produce the minute, non-recyclable polythene in total disregard of all the conversations you've had with finance, with NEMA, along the way. That is one. Two, even when you committed to recycling, it was really recycling in name, not for the commitment of turning plastics around and making them useful. And I am right.
No, I'm not saying you're right.
Well, I know I'm right.
Okay, that's
Yes,
that's your
Naim.
right.
Yes,
that's
Naim.
that's your right as well. Now, commitment has been done since 2009, when, in fact, it started 2010 after we sat down to discuss again the law which was passed without all stakeholders' involvement. So the 2009 law that the lady from NEMA, Christine, is talking about, that was a law, was not yet agreed with all the stakeholders, especially the manufacturers of plastic. That is why we are still in the same dilemma, because it went ahead without proper consultation. And I think she admitted that yes, we still have these consultations that will have to take place within the next 30 days and so on. We must admit that we have not advertised our machineries and equipment and so on. But like Mr. Chairman of Casita said, there is more than 10 recycling machines. Yes, we did a very...
With what capacity against what circulation?
Now, the capacity, we can do, all the 10 factories, we can collect more than 25 tons of plastic waste a day. The 10 factories, and they are distributed into different factories. Secondly, talking about the thin micron or the thick, we in Uganda, we are the only, if you look at the 3 partner states, we the only one who implemented the law, and we went by the law by producing the 30 microns thickness. And look at Kenya. Kenya did not implement the 30 micron, and that is why 80% of the carrier bag or packaging material, not only carrier bag, is smuggled from Kenya, finding its way to Uganda by means of transiting Congo or Sudan, because they are 3 times cheaper than our products. Now, we've been having problems with the market because of these smuggled goods, whereby it does not generate any taxes, anything. We pay huge in electricity, we pay huge in water for recycling and so on. But as you're talking about the thin plastic, it is not recyclable. Now, let me tell you this and assure this. All the plastic waste is ended up in Kitezi, and they are sorted and selected from Kitezi, the bottle aside, and the plastic Kavera aside, and the packaging aside. Now, when we receive all the plastic waste, we receive even the old type of plastic thinner, the ones which have been spilling from Kenya.
I have been to Kitezi. I know Kitezi. And I want to be fair to this country. Do you actually expect the sorting in Kitezi to take out every one of those things? Do you know where it ends up? It ends up to those of us that are buying manure from Kitezi, that it returns to our compounds. It returns to every other place.
Well, I have been also several times in Kitezi. I have been on the ground myself, encouraging people to sort. And we've seen a good numbers. If you sit an hour there, you'll see more than 40 trucks coming in, dumping in one corner, and you see all the sorters, all the so-called scavengers, rushing to the trucks. Immediately it's been dumped. The first thing they go for is Kavera. Now, you may disagree with me, but I can make you agree by going tomorrow with me to Kitezi. I will be there.
I'll come back
will
to
be
you.
Witness.
I'll come back to you. Isaac,
Yes, please.
give me the thinking that actually informs NEMA in this moment. Why the implementation? Because when you listen to Naim, he'll be very convincing. And I want to understand him. Naim is in business, ultimately. And he has to protect his staff.
And the environment as well.
I don't know about the environment.
No,
I
but
know
we're
about
living
your
in this
staff.
environment.
I know about your staff. He has to protect his staff. And it's his human right. It is his very, very right that he will do. Now, the existence of the state is to call to book Kivazu, Haji Muwanga, Evaristo, and say the human selfishness has to be contained by the state, has to be put back in line by the state. Show me the thinking of the state.
Thank
Why?
You, Yes, thank you, Mr. Chivazo. I don't know whether I'm the best person to think for the state, but I'll give you
Well,
the
you're
technical...
part of the instrument
Yes,
of the
I'm
state.
part of the instrument, and that is true. I'll start from a few things that, that my colleagues have talked about. Maybe from Christine's perspective, the lawyers. I do not think the state ever passes a law to persecute or to simply hunt or harm a certain segment of society. And sometimes laws are not popular. They may not be popular to everybody.
Possibly, most times.
The Public Order Management Bill is a classic example, but it is a law, and we need to be law-abiding Ugandans. There may be other laws that are not very popular, you see it, but laws are a necessity to any country. Haji talks and other, business people talk about, saying they talk about other countries saying the problem is waste management. Yes, waste management is just but part of the problem, actually. And we acknowledge that there's a problem of waste management in Uganda, you see it. But that notwithstanding, we still need these laws to help. Human beings are very interesting characters. If we were to assume that human beings are perfect and will behave as expected wherever, then we would not need any laws anyway, you see it. But we have the laws in place. Some people have gone ahead. We have people who have, actually, there's a very interesting analogy that one of our colleagues has brought to us and said, excuse me, if someone says we do not need the law because we just need to work on waste management, probably they need to revisit certain segments of society. We have a law against defilement, but we have the hospitals to treat the defiled. Should we remove the law and simply take the defilers to prison and the defiled to hospital? We say, well, we have the hospitals to take the defiled. We have the prisons to take the defilers. The law is still a necessity, and the law must be adhered to.
Let me see, Isaac.
Yes.
Let me see the technical aspect that informs this law.
Thank you very much. The technical aspects. This country has so many facets to its survival, and there are certain pillars to this cradle land of ours, Uganda. Mr. Naim and others have said Kitezi, but Uganda is bigger than Kitezi. For us, the state looks at Uganda from Arua to Busia, from Karamoja, Moroto to Kisoro.
Correct.
And these are things we need to to look at practically. And when you travel across this country, the plastics are really the biggest problem. And across the country, we have one common denominator, agriculture. And let me tell you, when these plastics get into the environment, trust you me or not, the plastic will outlive each one of us. and probably to the next 4 generations. And these plastics, because of their persistence, they're going to choke the environment. They will choke the agricultural land that we all live on. The land, the soil is not able to breathe. There is no free movement of moisture. The microorganisms are not able to thrive. And by the way, we are looking only at the human beings, but there are other beneficiaries to this environment we live on. There are things like the animals. So many of them die. Those who have tried to do farming with, animal husbandry, they will tell you how many animals of theirs have died simply because of that, the plastics. Contact. Yes, because of ingesting the plastics, and they die a slow, painful death because it cannot be digested.
Let me ask you. Let me ask you, and you'll excuse my naive question,
yes,
just before I take the break. Why the minute micron Kavera? Why the small one? Because from what you say, Kavera in itself is outright harmful. Yes. Why the packaging Kavera? Why the carrier Kavera? Why not Kavera?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Very briefly, because
very briefly, every journey begins with a single step. You see it? And we have a problem of plastics in the society. Whether they are plastics for packaging, whether they're plastics for carrying goods. But then there are those which we can do without. For instance, if I buy goods that have already been pre-packaged, sure, I can use an alternative to Kavera. You see it? And these are things, because Kavera has been abused in this country.
So you're saying pre-packaged is okay? If I'm buying bread and it has already been packed in Kavera, that's okay?
Then the law allows it.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Why don't you go the full distance? When I was growing up, I've told you, bread was packed in a paper that I don't know what it is called. Okay. People that ate Elliot or Tip Top remember that type of paper. Milk was packed in Tetra Paks. Yes. Why don't we start with those? Why don't we start with the ones that have been, the ones where they have found Naim and Haji Mwanga's products cheaper? Because really, Kavera is cheap. That's the bottom line. The reason I won't buy Tetra Pak is because Kavera is cheap. The reason I will not pack my juice in Tetra Pak is because Kavera is cheap. But I know companies that are packing juice in Tetra Paks. Why don't you encourage those and move them to that direction? Viewers, we are taking a break. When we return from the break, we will discuss the options. Waraji in small Kavera, airtime wrapped in Kavera when it could be without, bread that has before been packed in a different type of paper, and then recycling and disposal. How much does the industry of Kavera, polythene, help in waste management and waste disposal? Are they active players in that industry? Or for them, it is ultimately my bottom line, the bank details? Don't go away.